All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stream. I'm Teeks88, and I'll be your commentator for tonight's second race. Tonight, we're still moving forward with GSA Super Mario Bros. 3 100% tournament. So, just a few moments ago, we concluded the first match of round one in our 16-man single elimination bracket. That race was, of course, between Stewie Cartman and Proa 007. So, just as a reminder, feel free to use the exclamation bracket command in chat to take a look at any other matches that will be coming up over the course of this week. Tonight we will be continuing the second match in round one between two more really solid speedrunners, DaveLindo and TheHaxor. So I do believe we're going to be they're still in the process of setting up, so they will be starting really shortly. And as was discussed in our interviews last race, it's worth emphasizing that SMB3 100% is well over an hour long, so there's plenty of opportunities for surprises to come up along the way. So you can never really call it too early. So looks like I'm seeing a little bit of communication, so they should be starting their countdown very shortly. All right, so both of our races have just confirmed that they're both ready to start the race. So our restreamer has begun the countdown, and they'll be beginning right now. All right, so the race has begun. So each runner will be making their way over to level 1-1, and they're going to take a moment to build P-Speed right away. They're going to make their way over to the first Fire Piranha and then boost into the clouds off the second Power Koopa from that platform. And this is a quick and easy way to avoid the obstacles on the ground that could slow you down. So it doesn't look like any of the races have had any trouble along the way. You'll notice a stark difference right off the bat that DaveLindo took the first mushroom grab in level 1-1. So he's going to be preparing himself for a slightly safer strat that would only cost about 1 second, but it'll also guarantee that he doesn't take damage from the boomerang bro that's going to be coming up in level 1-3. So unfortunately, well, he got that first P-Speed right in the beginning of 1-2. He lost somewhere along the way, but he's still making his way through pretty smoothly. So Haxor is opting to just do a shell kick in order to take out that boomerang bro, and then he maintained his P-Speed just enough so that he could bounce that wooden block to get his mushroom grab. So they're both making their way past 1-3. They're only a couple seconds apart, so they're going to be entering level 1-4 now. And there's not going to be much going on in this level aside from a bit of platform hopping and the raccoon leaf that each runner will be picking up along the way. That will, of course, come in handy for the fort they're going to be doing next. And it's also worth noting that auto-scrollers are generally a good opportunity to keep an eye out for your score and your coin count, because there's always that potential risk you could get a coin chip later on. Right, just as a reminder, coin chips can spawn in place of any of the Hammer Bros on the world map, and this happens when your coin count is a multiple of 11, and the second to last digit of your score matches that coin count. So for example, it'll spawn if your score ends in 80 and your coin count is 88. Coin chips can potentially pop up in worlds 1, 3, 5, and 6, so it's never too late to be wary of. It's never too early to be wary of those numbers. And admittedly, you don't really want to have to imagine doing any mental math on the fly, but the time repercussions for encountering a coin chip definitely make it worth the trouble of doing so, because otherwise you would have to do a really slow auto scroller. And even if you commit suicide on the ship in order to bypass the scrolling sooner, that doesn't make the Hammer Bro go away. You'll still have to refight him, even if normally. So Haxor's coming up on the first fort now. So although they won't be staying there too long, he's going to do a series of small jumps and then make his way past the rotor discs, rack up piece speed, and then fly over that ceiling to grab the magic whistle. It's not going to be used in any part of this race, so he's going to want to steer clear of that when he's doing his menuing for other items. But overall, that route is going to save time over doing a traditional fight on Boom Boom, especially since he doesn't have to enter that doorway where he would have to navigate past the spike ceiling that scrolls and then have to wait for that door to open. So HaxorS has no trouble going through level 1-5. You'll notice he damage boost right from the start as he was sliding down that hill, and it's actually faster to run through most levels in the game without a tail since you have more control over your P-speed that way. The only other times you generally see a tail used are for levels where it's especially advantageous to make use of flight mechanics, as opposed to those that make heavy use of running and jumping, which would be the majority of the levels in this game. Another thing to note about the tail is that the longer you remain in flight, the slower you gradually become. This applies whether you're equipped with a P-Wing, or a regular Leaf, or the Tanuki suit. And in the case of the latter two, your P-Speed is tied to a timer, which is set to expire after a couple seconds, whereas with Tailless Mario, your P-Speed lasts for however long you're running. So in 1-6, you start off with that full jump from the far right of the first platform, and they're going to want to land flush with those two wooden platforms in order to start building P-speed. That way they can both bounce the Paracoopa. You want to start running from as far to the left as you can in order to guarantee your highest chances of P-speed, because every once in a while you can miss the P-speed by getting frame ruled, and what that means is that as soon as you start running, the game checks your P-speed every 8 frames. So if you're hitting that checkpoint while running over the small gap, you'll fail to completely fill your meter and reach the Koopa. You can recalibrate by turning back and starting another cycle, although each attempt can cost you about 4 seconds. It looked like I think DaveLindo had to make another cycle or two there. So once again, they're both on the World 1 airship. They're only a couple seconds behind. So it's also worth noting, as we're waiting for this auto-scroller to pass by, that they're going to be coming up on their first Koopa Link fight. And it's worth noting that these bosses are coded with a small handful of fixed fighting patterns. For example, they could jump the moment they enter the fight, or they can shoot their wand right away, or they can just walk towards you for a couple seconds before doing anything else. And this will matter because if you know what pattern you're going to get, that will indicate how you should approach fire killing them. And that pattern is determined by a timer which starts from the last level you completed to the frame upon which you enter the pipe in the airship. So it's very possible that your pattern could be swayed depending on where you get your Hammer Bro fight in World 1. So it looks like they were both able to get their fire kills in on Larry, so they'll both be making their way over to World 2. It's also worth noting that what else could also complicate a Koopa Link fight is that the hitbox is located on the upper half of their sprite, so you have to be really tactful in how you fire kill them, because half your shots can potentially miss or go right through them. So a fast, clean fire kill on each Koopa Link will save you a couple seconds over the traditional 3-jump kill. So it doesn't look like HaxorS had any trouble with 2-1. It's pretty straightforward in terms of execution. It just simply entails holding B and right upon entering the level so you can build your P-speed, and then hitting your first jump while rubbing that first block, and then bouncing on the series of those fake blocks. And if for any reason you miss the stomp on the last fake block that's on the ground, you can still make that full leap at your P-speed in order to reach the second note block onto the upper platforms. You just have to be careful not to collide with the fire snake that's just around the corner. World 2 generally has a lot of levels that don't require a fire flower to clear optimally, but you always want to hold on to it just long enough in the beginning to fire kill that Boom Boom as HaxorS is making his way through that fort. And like the Koopalings, it'll save you a couple seconds. It'll save you about 4 seconds over a normal jump kill when you fight Boom Boom. So we'll see if Dave is able to get that early P-speed. Unfortunately, he doesn't. He got an early bounce on one of those dry bones that kind of affected his P-speed meter early on. But he was actually able to get that meter filled going into that pipe, which is pretty much your ideal situation. The early P-speed strat is really meticulous because you have to manage some really, really small jumps in order to hold on in order to run along as much of the ground surface as you can while steering clear of those dry bones. And if you're able to get it, it saves you about 1 or 2 seconds. But if you don't get it, it's really not the end of the world. It's not really worth resetting over. But it's a nice bonus to have. So looks like Dave is making his way past the first boomerang bro. Unfortunately, he took damage in the first fort, but he'll be able to get his fire flower back at the end of the world by once he gets to the Morton Koopa's airship. 2-3 is one of those. Level 2-3 is a good exercise for measuring your medium jumps. So you'll want to stay on the lower end of these pyramid platforms to build P-speed, then carefully time the height of your jump so you can stomp those fake blocks to make your way to the far end of that level. And as soon as you kick the shell to start breaking the blocks, you immediately want to start positioning yourself right over the pipe. That way you can just hold down and exit as soon as the path is fully cleared for you. So Haxor's making his way through level 2-5. It's pretty straightforward in terms of execution. You just want to board whatever small platforms you can, making small meticulous jumps along the way to avoid the obstacles in your way, namely the chain chomp. Sometimes it could just be right in your way as soon as you start the level, depending on what kind of luck RNG yields to you. So every once in a while, you'll get lucky, you'll get unlucky, and you can just get hit right off the bat as you're boarding those first 2 wooden blocks. So Haxor's making his way over to the pyramid, and there's 2 key strats you'll want to be wary of. The first of which is boosting past the first block wall by running at it with the Buzzy Beetle shell, and then throwing it at the wall with just enough space between you and the shell and the wall to duck and sneak by. And interestingly, the game grants you a small window of invincibility when you're that close to the ricocheting shell, which is why you can get away with right past her without taking any damage. And the second strat, once you're on the upper level, just entails allowing the second shell to drop down and break a path open for you to duck slide under. So looks like Haxor doesn't have any issues just breaking open that block from the hammer and then just getting those clean kills on the fire bros. So now he's entering 2-4, and it's one of those levels that can make any runner a little bit nervous. It's not entirely free. It starts off with a really tightly timed jump running at P-speed, and you want to position yourself so that you can boost off that first set of Koopas past the boomerang bros and the fire piranha straight to the end. There is that possibility that you'll have to readjust your movements on the fly depending on how that first boomerang bro is standing. Because sometimes he can move forward, sometimes he can move backwards. And depending on where he's positioned, you could either stomp him, collide into him, or just move right past him. And you'll never know because he's off screen while you're still in the middle of the air. It's very easy to choke away whatever groove you have going for you and then fall right into a nearby pit. Because from my experience, it seems like there's a slight delay in your next inputs, whether you're pressing A or B, if you bounce an enemy first and then land on the ground. And I've certainly had my share of resets on my own runs because of that. So it looks like Dave is finished making his way past the pyramid, and Haxor is making his way through the World 2 airship, so he's very soon going to be fighting Morton Koopa. He already has his Fire Flower equipped, so he doesn't have to worry about getting other additional power-ups. DaveLindo is about a half a level behind, but it's still relatively close. So this is going to be a good opportunity for him to pick up a Fire Flower, and then we'll see what kind of patterns Morton deals them, and if he's able to get the fire kill on any of them. Alright, so it looks like Haxor was able to anticipate his pattern, so he knew to just delay by a couple seconds until he had Morton right in the line of fire. So he was able to land those 10 shots, no problem. So really good job as far as that goes. That's admittedly something that I still kind of struggle with. So now that Morton Koopa is down, Haxor is going to be making his way to World 3. And DaveLindo is not too far behind. He's going to be coming up on Morton very soon. Just wants to make sure he's still avoid. So level 3-1 is a pretty basic swimming level to start off with. You're effectively just moving forward, steering clear of the blooper, and making your way over to the wall with P-speed, and then just P-speed your way over half of the level's water, and then effortlessly make your way over to the exit pipe. If for any reason you took damage from the Morton Koopa fight, there is a fire flower along the way on that ceiling. It does cost a couple seconds to pick up. But at least World 3 has a good share of backup in case something like that happens. So we see Haxor using one of the more sophisticated strats that are in the game. So it basically just entails holding, going as far to the left as you can, and then just waiting until that first wooden beam turns left upon hitting that elbow. And then just landing flush with the beam, and then starting to build your P meter on that. And if you execute it correctly, you'll be able to build P speed on those that set of donut lifts. And then once he has that P speed, he can perform a series of carefully executed jumps, both full leaps and small jumps, and that'll allow him to bounce along those cheeps, and then use that momentum to carry him to the exit. And if he does it correctly, he'll be able to save 3 seconds there, and it looks like he was successful as far as that goes. So Haxor's going to be making his way over to the first fort in World 3 as soon as he finishes these Hammer Bros. So as soon as the runners get P-speed in the first fort, they want to make their way past the thwomps, and they'll want to make their way over to door 6, and that's going to be the door that leads them straight to Boom Boom. Periodically, you see runners try to enter door 3, which ordinarily leads you straight into the water, whereupon you would have to take the pipe in order to get back to that hallway. But if the player is able to press up on the first frame in which they have control over Mario, they can re-enter that door in midair and then go straight to Boom Boom that way. It's a risky shortcut that saves a couple seconds, and I want to say maybe like 2 or 3. But it's really not worth it if you're already on good pace, or like especially in these circumstances, if you're in the middle of a race, it's really not worth it. So Haxor's making his way over to 3-5. It's one of the freer levels in the game where you, if you have a P-wing equipped, and it's really just a matter of flying over the water to time your jumps as you're landing on those platforms. And you want to make sure you have as much of the ground as you can cover, so you can make sure that you're garnering as much speed to build and jump off of. So from there, he's going to go straight from 3-4 with his tail, and he's going to damage boost off those Goombas, and that'll allow him to make the most of his P speed as regular Big Mario. So he has no problem avoiding the Lakitu, Spinies, and the Goombas that are along the way. Generally, you just want to make sure that you're not hitting the upward slope. Because if you hit a bad pixel, you could come to a dead halt, and without any speed, you wouldn't be able to make the height needed to cross over that water gap in the beginning. So he's coming up on 3-6 now. It's one of the more fun auto-scrollers to mess around with. It's a nice cool-off period to grab a Fire Flower right in the beginning, if at any point you are taking damage, and then take some shots at the Koopas along the way. It's also one of the more noteworthy levels in the game to highlight graphical glitches, where you can turn item boxes blue or donut lifts green. We in the community often refer to them as the moldy donuts. It's a good opportunity also to keep an eye on your coin count, because and the only part you really have to worry about is right at the end, where you have that spinner right in the way of your exit pipe. Because if you're not careful with your jumps, it's very easy to just be thrown right off to your death, and the last thing you would ever want is to die, especially at the end of an auto-scroller. So Dave is not too far behind. He's just wrapping up 3-4. I do believe he went through level 3-5 already. So he does encounter a runaway bro along the way. So he's going to lose a couple more seconds just because he's on the map long enough, and there's nothing he can really do to avoid all those movements to save time. Every once in a while, you might see the runners try to encounter the Hammer Bro fights a little bit earlier by clouding past certain levels and then just going back to them later on. So Haxor's making his way over to the second fort in World 3. You notice he did what's referred to as a power swim. So he basically just wants to do a medium jump exactly from where he's standing, and then just do a duck slide into the shallow water. And then that'll allow him to do what's called a power swim and let him enter the pipe a couple frames earlier than if he was just doing a normal swim and jump. And it's also you also want to be cautious of the walls that are around you as you're navigating through the water, because if you bump into any of them, they can kill your momentum pretty easily, and that can cost you about 2 seconds right off the bat over something really that inconsequential. So he's making his way over to 3-8 now, and it's one of those levels that don't really incorporate piece speed as a strat. So the obstacle here is, the objective here is just to clear those 2 ice blocks as soon as you can, and then start jumping immediately every time you come in contact with the water. And as long as you're maintaining rhythm, Big Bertha will come close to you, but not necessarily have the opportunity to eat you. So he gets through that pretty easily. So he's making his way over to 3-9. Which is home of the infamous H jump. So you'll see our runners try to build P-speed right away and then maneuver past these platforms and bombs in such a way that will allow them to move past the note blocks and have just enough height and distance to clear that gap no problem. Looks like Haxor was able to get it. So generally it is easier said than done. It's not the freest strat in the world, but if you are able to make it, it does save you a good chunk of time. I want to say about 5 or 7 seconds. And it also allows you to avoid a hefty amount of leg due to throwing all those ice blocks. So he'll be coming up on the World 3 airship, where he'll be fighting Wendy. Meanwhile, Dave is making his way over through 3F2 as well. So he was able to get past those stretch boosts without taking any damage, and that's going to be really helpful because he wants to have a Fire Flower equipped as he's entering the Wendy fight as well. And he doesn't really have any more opportunities. Well, neither racer would have any more opportunities to pick up a Fire Flower in 3-8 or 3-9. So that was really their last chance in 3-6 and 3-7. So the interesting thing about Wendy is that it's the easiest Koopa Link to fire kill, but the hardest to jump kill normally. It's an easy fire kill because you're on flat ground, making it pretty easy to measure your distance and shoot those fireballs in pairs until she's down. And it's also one of the Koopa Links whose patterns you don't really have to worry about too much, just because she can be fought the same way each time. The only problem is if you have to do a traditional jump kill on her, she fires off the rings with her wand that bounce around the room, and they never disappear until she's defeated. I mean, it's bad enough if you're trying to maneuver around them once they're there, but as soon as she starts jumping, it's very easy to get caught off guard and take damage that way, and that damage can add up really quickly. So Haxor has no problem doing the fire kill on Wendy. And Dave is making his way over to the World 3 airship as well. So now we're coming up on one of the more popular worlds to play casually, and this is going to be Giant Land, where pretty much all our objects and enemies are fun-sized. So that includes the clouds that you jump on, and the big wooden blocks, and the Paracoopas and the Goombas. So Haxor's going to be making his way over to level 4-1, and 4-1 has a pretty fun P-speed strat coming up. We either want to grab the big Koopa shell or at least clear a path with those fireballs so you can land flush with every surface you run on. And that way you can build P-speed in time to boost past the waterfall onto the upper platforms and through carefully timed jumps land right in front of the exit pipe. Didn't look like Haxor was able to get it, so we had to go for the next best option, was just to go through the stage normally. It doesn't lose him too much time, but it's just an inconvenience that you want to avoid generally. He's making his way to 4-2 now, and it's a fun stage to run through with nothing terribly complicated going on. You just want to make sure you're at least grabbing one of those ice blocks in the beginning to take out one of the 2 fire piranhas coming up, and then make some carefully measured jumps to land right in front of the exit. It's generally advisable to approach the end of the level from the upper platforms and clouds because you never know what kind of surprise you'll get from the cheeps below. Sometimes you'll have like 3 in a row that just come up right in front of your face as you're trying to enter the last pipe, and then you have to like just duck and take those couple seconds lost. So he's making his way through 4-3 now pretty easily. It's one of the more aesthetically appealing levels to run through, both for the runner and for the person watching. More often than less, it's the sledge bro will try to jump right at the start of the level as he's so you can run right underneath him. You could also shoot a fireball right away in case he just starts on the ground. Though it's not necessary, there's still enough space between you and the sledge bro to react to either situation. So Haxor's making his way through 4F1. He wasn't able to execute the speed strat perfectly, but he was able to maintain his fire flower. So he was able to get that boom boom kill. So it didn't lose him any more than like maybe 2 or 3 seconds. But the ideal strat here would be to equip the star and then just run through with P-Speed through those first 2 hallways. And then you just want to carry that P-Speed past the small crevice where the horizontal moving swamp was. And then use that star to take out the hotfoot candle, and then make your way past that swamp. So he lost a little P-Speed along the way, but the majority of the execution was spot on. So really good job being able to improvise and still get it out of there with a good time. He's making his way through 4-4 now. There's one recently discovered strat that was discovered by the Thaxor Maru, and that basically entails just it just basically entails just going through onto that upper wall, having your P-Speed, as we saw Haxor do, but doing a crouch jump, and then that'll allow you to position yourself in such a way that you can do a double kill on both the Lakitu and the Spiny as you're coming out of the water, and that'll save you a couple frames. It didn't look like Haxor went for it just now, but it is an option over what he did, which the difference isn't too much different in terms of time, but it at least guarantees you a safe exit from Lakitu as you're getting close to entering the pipe. So 4-6 is another one it's another really fun one to run through if you have a flower. So you can use the bushes behind you as a frame of reference for when to shoot that first jumping Koopa. And then the rest of it is just carefully measuring your jumps and then just sniping out anything that comes up in your way. 4-5 is not a level that you can make any use of P-Speed out of, so it's just a matter of some really careful platform jumping and just making sure that you have the fire flower equipped so that you can have a clear path open for you to make your way to the exit pipe. Again, actually has no problems with that. DaveLindo is now making his way over to 4-4. He does not have a fire flower equipped, so if he did decide to go for the Maru strat, he wouldn't really have the opportunity otherwise. So we'll see. He does not go for the bounce on Lakitu, so he's going to take the underside of and then just swim away from those Spinies. It's a safer alternative, but it does lose him a couple seconds. It was a really inconvenient way to throw that Spiny. That was rude. Alright, so Haxor just finished up 4F2, and he's going to be making his way to the slowest airship in the game. So if you want to grab some snacks, or if you want to start making dinner, if you want to go for a bathroom break, now would definitely be the good opportunity to do so. Meanwhile, Dave is making his way past 4F1. So he's going to try and pick up a fire flower here, since this is a good first level to go through in this last series of level, just because you have that plan B available to you. This is usually the traditional route in case something should happen along the way. So now that he has his fire flower again, he'll be able to do optimal strats for 4-6 and 4F2. 4F2. Meanwhile, Haxor doesn't really have much going on in his airship, so he's just going to be messing around with these rocky wrenches while just hopping around from platform to platform with those those nut and screw sections. Dave has a really good start going into 4-6, and he's able to get those snipes on those Koopas and Piranhas, and he's going to end with a 293 exit card. So really good job from him. That was really well executed strats. So he's going to go into 4-2 now. So just trying to build some P speed along those along that section. And unfortunately, he doesn't get the P speed strat, and he looks like he got a little frazzled, just trying to decide what to do next, and then just fell right into the Ragu. That's unfortunate. So he will be able to pick up a mushroom here, but he's going to be at a slight disadvantage going into World 5 because he does want to have that Fire Flower when he gets ready to go into level 5-3. You'll have an opportunity to pick one up in 5-2, but it's going to be a little inconvenient. It's going to cost him a couple seconds. Meanwhile, Haxor gets a nice easy kill on Iggy. I remember mentioning this in my last interview with Stewie, but every once in a while, if you're going for a traditional jump kill on Iggy, sometimes he'll manifest in a pattern where he just jumps around a lot, and depending on when you jump him or how quickly you catch him, sometimes at the speed he's going, sometimes your stomp just doesn't register as a stomp, but rather as damage, and you'll just fall right through him. But it looks like Haxor was able to anticipate his pattern right away, so he was able to get that fire kill. Something you definitely want to opt for, as it'll save you a couple seconds. Alright, so Haxor's making his way to level 5-2 now. So he's gonna want to be careful right in the beginning as he's making his way over to where the note blocks are. So the alternative is that he falls off, and then he'll fall for about a good chunk of time, and then he would be entering a section of the level where there would be a lot of mini hills, buster beetles, ice blocks, and a lot of piranha plants. So he wouldn't really have any opportunities to build P-speed there, and he would otherwise lose a good chunk of time. So you always want to take that upper section, as we just saw him do. He's making his way over to in 5F1, so he's going to want to be careful with those jumps in the beginning, because it's very easy to just fall off those steps into the Ragu. Meanwhile, the rest of the stage is pretty free. You just want to maintain your P-speed and then make your jumps past the roto discs and thwomps, and then get that easy fire kill on Boom Boom. Really good job. So he's going to be tackling these Hammer Bros as soon as he can. It's not really worth using the Cloud to get to them sooner in this section, just because he's still going to be picking up movements from the Sky Bro. So he'll have an opportunity to go to 5-3, since that's the section that's nearest to him on the map. So he's going to want to have a clear path open for him where those two Spinies are, and then maintain his P-speed for the rest of the level. It admittedly can be a little bit awkward, especially with the kind of jumps you have to do in order to avoid taking damage. So he's able to carry that P-speed with him without getting frame ruled. So he's going to take out that Piranha Plant and then just carry that speed for the rest of the level. Ends with a 288 exit, which is pretty much ideal. Really good job in terms of execution. It's one of the trickier parts of World 5 generally, so that's definitely going to serve him well. Meanwhile, David's entering now World 5. So he has a Raccoon Tail equipped, so we'll see how he decides to make use of that. So looks like he took damage a little earlier than I think he expected to do, but it should be relatively inconsequential, since I think he's going to be getting rid of that tail anyway in order to make room for the Fire Flower in 5-2. Meanwhile, Haxor's getting that early P-speed in the Spiral Tower. It's a little bit tricky, because you want to have those... you want to at least maintain your P-speed for the first 2 floors, just so that you can make your way past those low-hanging thwomps. They're pretty close to the ground, so you wouldn't be able to make your way past them just going at normal speed. And then if you get blocked by them, they could cost you a couple seconds as they start to go back up. and then since you have 2 of them, that can add up pretty quickly. So as noted, Dave went for the Fire Flower in 5-2, and that's going to save him a good chunk of time if he's able to pull off the strat in 5-3. Meanwhile, Haxor's making his way over to the sky, so he makes his way past the spinner. So you have to, even though it's in more often than less, you don't really have to worry about it too much, but it's worth being at least a little bit careful because sometimes spinners can be notorious for dropped inputs. So it's very easy to just miss the time your jumps and then just fall right to your death in 4-1. It's definitely happened to runners before. So Haxor did a strat just right at the beginning of 5-2, in which he did a turn back on that block right in the beginning, and then wanted to grab as much as the ground as he possibly could in order to build that P speed a little bit earlier than he otherwise would have been able to, and that saves him 1.5 seconds. Not the easiest thing in the world, and especially since you want to avoid hitting that wooden block that would otherwise put you at risk of grabbing a raccoon tail. So we get that music box bro right away. So he's making his way over to 5-6 now. So he's in his first and only auto scroller for this. I'm sorry, his first auto scroller out of 2 for World 5. So it's not a particularly difficult level, but because of those platforms that he's jumping onto with those paratroopers are really small, he still wants to be at least a little bit careful. And of course, the time repercussions for dying on a stage like this would definitely be a serious problem. So he's gonna have the opportunity to take a look at his coin count. If he gets on that second platform a little early, he'll be able to do an easy kill on that fire snake. So you may notice our runners making a brief pause before entering the pipe at the end of the level. They do this because the way the game loads the exits. If you enter the pipe at the earliest possible moment, it's possible to be crushed by the outer borders of the level while it's still scrolling, and then take a death. And to be honest, I had no idea that was even a thing until around this time last year when I started running the game, and I ended up learning that the hard way. So it looks like Haxor was able to get that early P speed going into in level 5-7. So he was able to snipe that first Koopa right in the beginning, and then just carry that P speed with him past where the Lakitu was. 5F2 is also home to. It's not only a really fun level generally, but it's also home to a very rarely used strat, which is referred to as the Jesus clip. And what it basically just entails is just jumping in such a way so that you land on the top right pixel of the second block platform. Ooh, unfortunately, Dave took a death in 5-4. I guess couldn't tell if he just forgot to jump or if there was just a dropped A press. It's definitely a possibility. But he's going to have to enter. He's going to have to pick up some additional power-ups along the way. I think he'll have an opportunity in 5-6 and 5-7. And he also has those wooden blocks in 5-5. So he should be able to recover, but it is an inconvenience nonetheless. But as I was saying about the Jesus clip, you want to enter the top right corner. You want to jump on the top right corner pixel of that block, and then you'll be able to clip through where that ceiling is, and that'll save you 4 seconds. That'll allow you to reach the boom boom fight 4 seconds earlier. But because this is a race and failing that clip would mean that you fall into the ragu, you're not going to see any of the runners really go for that unless they were really desperate. So Dave is taking it a little cautiously as he's fighting the Hammer Bros here. So he picks up that music box. Meanwhile, Haxor is just breezing through 5-9 auto scroller. So since he had that fire flower, he was able to snipe out that first fire snake pretty easily. So now he's going to be making his way over to Airship 5. This is where Roy Koopa is. So if you do a normal jump kill on Roy Koopa, he's going to jump in such a way when he's in his crouching shell state, and then just try to generate quakes that could potentially stun lock you for additional damage. But I don't think that's the approach that Haxor's going to go for. I do believe he's going to go for the fire kill, since you are doing 100%. Your pattern's going to be the same the whole way, just because you still have to go through 5-9 first. So Roy, in all likeliness, is going to get a pattern where he just moves forward and then just doesn't do anything, just long enough for Haxor to just keep shooting him in the face and have no problems getting that kill on him. So if you know what you're doing, it's one of the freer fire kills in the game as well. Meanwhile, Dave is making his way over to 5-7, so he's going to pick up a Fire Flower right here. In that wooden block. Very nice. So there isn't too much you have to be particularly cautious with, so as long as he keeps moving right, he should still be able to end the level with a reasonable time. So we'll see how Haxor handles Roy Koopa. Goes for the fire kills as expected. And just as I anticipated, Roy just kept moving forward and didn't do anything, so that was a free kill for TheHaxor. Really good job as far as that goes. So he's going to be making his way over to World 6, which is the Ice World. One of the more annoying worlds for 100% runners. Because normally in any percent warp list, you'll have you'll have 2 hammers equipped, ready to break some rocks, and allow you to skip 4 levels. Those being 5-2, 5-3, 5-1, and 5-7. But because they actually have to play all these levels, there's going to be a little tricky execution involved, especially when you have to deal with those ice physics. So he's going to start off on those upper platforms. He wants to get that early P speed, and then depending on where that piranha is positioned, that'll give him a good idea of where he should time his jumps in order to reach those next platforms. So looked like Haxor didn't have any trouble here. So he's making his way. So whether he goes to 5-2 or 5-3 is often dependent on where the Hammer Bro is positioned, because he wants to get to him as soon as possible. So he's opting for 5-2 first, which is going to be another boring auto-scroller. It's really not going to be too much going on, but as usual, he's going to have another opportunity to take a look at his coin count. While Dave is doing his own auto-scroller, level 5-9, he doesn't have the Fire Flower equipped, but he'll be able to get another one on the World 5 area. So we'll see how he decides to do the Roy Koopa kill, if he decides to go for the normal jumps or for the fire kill as well. Looks like he was able to bait that Fire Snake over to the right so that he can get an easy stomp on him. Gets through there no problem. Yeah, normally that level would be a little bit easier when you have the Fire Flower, but it's also good to know how you're supposed to improvise in worst case scenarios, which looks like Dave was able to do. So he's going to be making his way over to the Roy Koopa ship as well. Haxor is finishing up the 5-2 auto-scroller, so he's going to be making his way over to 6-3 next. And this is going to be one where normally it would just be a lot of platform jumping like you saw in 4-5, but there is an opportunity to build early P speed as you run across those small platforms. So we'll see if he actually goes for that or decides to take the safer alternative. Whatever he decides to do, even if he doesn't get it, it's not going to be too problematic. And he gets the early P speed. Really good job. Looks like he rubbed that wall though. So although he did save a couple frames in the long run, it looks like he lost a couple, so it kind of balanced out to this the amount of time you would expect to get through it normally. But still, really solid job, a really solid start nonetheless. So he's going to be making his way over to our first fort. So he set himself up around where that item block was to propel himself a little bit sooner onto that spike bed. So he was able to damage boost. He's going to pick up a star here, and then he's going to carry it to Boom Boom so that he can get the quick kill on him. Looks like Dave opted to do the traditional jump strats for Roy Koopa, so he'll be joining the TheHaxor in World 6 very shortly. Meanwhile, Haxor is going into World 6-4. He's going to be a little careful here. He wants to make sure he's taking a look at his coin count because he had 83 before. And So yeah, it looks like he took a couple extra ones. Otherwise, he could have ended with 88 instead of 90. But his score was still in good shape nonetheless, so I don't think he was too much in danger there. So optimally, you want to enter 6-6 first while you're still Small Mario, just because it'll allow you to navigate the smaller passages in the water a little bit easier, since you have that smaller hitbox. But you also want to steer clear of those cheap cheats because one touch can obviously kill you. So he's getting through. He got that early P speed, and he was able to propel himself pretty easily. So he was able to despawn that second piranha plant in that pipe as he was exiting. So we ended with a 273 pipe. Ideally, you want to have a 275, but it's still really not a big deal. It's still a really solid time nonetheless. So he decided to be a little bit bold with these hammer blows here. So he was able to get that jump kill even while he was still small. So he's going to equip his P-Wing here. And now he's going to do another despawn strat. So he wants to clear a path by getting rid of these busted beetles. And then he's going to run down that hill, and that'll garner him enough speed so that one of the two nippers just doesn't load, so it despawns. So that'll clear a path open for him, so he doesn't have to worry about bringing a Koopa shell along with him to that exit. So really good job as far as that goes. It's not the easiest thing in the world. It definitely took me a couple of tries to figure out. So now that he has the tail, he should have an easy kill on those last hammer bros. Took some damage there, so it's going to cost him a couple seconds going into 6F2. Because he wants to have a tail so that he's ready to fly underneath at least half of the fort's level. So I don't think he's going to be able to get... Oh, I stand corrected. I thought there was a fire flower there. I must be thinking of another level. So yeah, he'll be able to pick up that tail here, and then we'll be able to see him fly. Looks like Dave just finished up his 6-2. So very shortly he's going to be entering his first fort in World 6 as well. Again, really not much going on here. It's just going to be a lot of platform jumping for the Haxor until he makes his way over to the fort. Meanwhile, we'll see... Okay, so Dave was able to jump on those two note blocks simultaneously, and that's going to give him that extra height boost in order to make his way over to that beyond that upper section. So he's taking a little bit carefully here because he does have that raccoon tail, so that does mess with his speed a little bit. But he gets through there no problem. So he's going to be entering the fort. So he's going to be doing the same damage boost strat in order to get to that star a little bit sooner. So Haxor flew under that undersection of 6F2. He does his own damage boosting in order to run past those roto discs and thwomps, and then he gets a pretty straightforward jump kill on Boom Boom, ending with a 280. So really good job. That's a really good time. And now for the next strat in 6-8, he's going to pick up that ice block, and he wants to throw it as soon as possible in order to avoid getting any lag frames. Unfortunately, he didn't have too much success with that. And unfortunately, he took a death from that nipper that was able to get him right at the last second. So he doesn't have to pick up a mushroom here. He could still do the level as Small Mario. He was able to get the P-speed this time without getting any issue from the lag frames. So that'll position him for that H jump. So he was able to bounce on that busty beetle and make his way over to the exit. Really solid stuff. DaveLindo's he's making his way through 6-4, no problem. So Haxor equips his P-wing, so he's going to be flying over the -9, so he doesn't have to enter that swimming cavern in the pipe below. Alternatively, you could also enter. You could also make your way over to that wall, either as Big Mario or Small Mario, and then do a frame perfect jump. So that'll land you on one of the subpixels that are in the wall, and that'll give you that extra boost to make the height in order to get over there. It's a lot easier said than done. It might take you a couple tries to get it, but optimally you do want to go for that P-Wing. Didn't look like HaxOr was able to maintain his P-speed going past the ice block wall in the beginning, but he was able to get a fast Fire Flower grab, and he's going to want to hold on to it going into World 7. Looks like DaveLindo lost a little bit of rhythm with his jumps towards the end of 6-6, so he lost a little bit of time there, but he was able to get there without dying, so I would say that's a perfectly fair trade-off. Yeah, I want to emphasize that it's a really tight jump between that where those hill is with those cheap pools in, and where that spike just happens to be positioned as you're making your way over to that pipe. So HaxOr has no problem maintaining P-speed going into the end of 6 F3, gets that solid fire kill on Boom Boom. So he's going to be making his way over to the airship, and that's where he's going to be fighting Lemmy Koopa. This is the World 6 airship is pretty unique in the fact that you don't really have any time-saving strats, but the unique factor about it is that you can clip into the upper section of the ship in the latter half. We'll see if he actually goes for it and if he's successful. And if he's able to do it, it'll allow him to avoid the Spitfires that are below him, and then just kind of chill out for about 10 or 11 seconds before he has to start following along with what's going on again. So first he's just going to make his way past those nut and screw platforms. So even if he fell underneath where his score HUD was, he wouldn't fall to his death because there still was that platform underneath him. Didn't look like he went for the clip this time. So it doesn't really matter either way. It just means that you just have to be a little bit more careful. So again, he's not gonna be messing with any of those item blocks. He's just going to hold on to his Fire Flower and then just get a quick fire kill on Lemmy Koopa. We'll see if he actually goes for that, or if he just decides to do a normal jump kill and play it safe. Alright, so he decides to take it safe. So, yeah, if you decide to do a jump kill on Lemmy Koopa, he's definitely one of the easiest in that regards, because you can just bounce the green balls that he throws as a follow-up, and then they'll always be out of your way for when his hitbox becomes open again. So, good stuff from the HaxOr. So you want to especially be careful that he holds onto that Fire Flower, at least until he makes it to 7-2, which he definitely will be able to do. So get your bless RNGs out in chat and hope that he's able to have good subpixel value so that he can clip into the wall as soon as he can. We'll see how many tries that takes. Alright, so that one took 7 tries. So like I said, your luck going into those wall clips is dependent on your subpixel value as you enter the level, so it's not entirely RNG. It's something that could be manipulated, but it's not something that is necessarily worth worrying about, especially if you're just an RTA speedrunner. So if you want to go through levels 7-1 normally, that takes about 50 to 51 seconds. But if you're able to get that clip on your first try, that will save you 36 seconds. So even if you're making double-digit attempts, you'll still likely save time anyway. So there's really no reason not to go for it in a speedrun. Even if you're worried that you might screw it up, it's really not difficult to do in terms of execution. It's just bunking your head against that corner block and then just hoping you go in. So we saw HaxOr snipe out that first nipper in 7-2, so he was able to clear a path for him in order to start building P-speed, and then he used his momentum in order to clear that gap, so we didn't have to build a no block bridge as you would traditionally do in a casual game of SMB3. So since he was able to bypass that, that saves him a good chunk of time. So now he's going to be entering 7-5 with the P wing. So he's going to be playing some musical shells coming up. So he's going to bonk that first Koopa. He's going to bring it to the back down to the bottom level, and he wants to have a path open for him so that he can get to the upper level pipe again soon. You saw he did a slight turn back with that ice block because he doesn't want to kill both of the Koopas. He wants to have at least one shell open so that he can repeat the pyramid strat of just breaking that wall and then just running right through it. So he's going to be going down that pipe with a 285 on his counter, and it's a really, really solid time. So he ends with a 280, so he went through that pretty much as fast as you would want to. Unfortunately, it looks like Dave took a little bit of damage along the way, so he had to do the jump kill on Boom Boom. So unfortunately, he's not going to have a Fire Flower going into World 7, but he still will have a star as a backup in case he wants to take that path for when he clears that gap. Meanwhile, Haxor's making his way over to 7-4. So this is the infamous Sea Creature auto-scroller. So he wants to hold on to that raccoon tail for as long as he can. So he wants to make it through the level and still have that tail left over so that he can just have to not worry about menuing as he's entering the World 7 fort. And that means he'll also have a P-Wing left over. So that will come in handy if he decides to fly over the first half of 7-9 and bypass half the maze. Meanwhile, it doesn't look like Dave is going for the clip in the World 6 airship either. So he's going to take things... he's going to be a little bit careful around these Spitfires. But nothing he can't handle. So, yep. So yeah, it's not... It's worth noting also that the fish and the bloopers that spawn in 7-4 are RNG. So, depending on when and where they spawn, that could cause a significant amount of lag frames, and that can cost you up to maybe 1 or 2 seconds. So, in an ideal situation, you would want to bait those bloopers away from you as much as you can so they can get off screen sooner as the level is scrolling on. Dave gets a solid jump kill on Lemmy, really good stuff. So, it looks like Haxor was able to hold on to his tail. So, he's going to use that star so that he can make his way through those piranhas as soon as he can. And that'll net him another P-Wing. So he'll have that on reserve for when he enters the last island. So yeah, it's a couple frames slower if you decide to use the normal raccoon leaf over a P-Wing when you're entering that fort. But you would actually save time by not having to worry about where everything menu. So he was actually saving time. Well, it looks like Dave is having a little bit of trouble with the... Okay, now he finally gets that wall clip in 7. The good stuff. Meanwhile, Haxor's making his way through 7-6. He takes his P-Wing, and he's able to fly right over that wall, so that saves him a good chunk of time without having to worry about all that platform boarding you would otherwise have to do in the doorway. So Haxor's going to make his way over to 7-7. Doesn't look like he was either equipped or interested in doing the pipe clip that we saw Stewie Cartman attempt last race. So he's going to pick up 2 stars along the way. He's got his second one, and he's going to carry it with him straight to the end and skip that 3rd cycle. So he has just enough iframes just to make it over to that pipe straight into the end zone. Ends with a 287 pipe, which is really, really good stuff. So he's going to want to open up a path for him in 7-8. But first he's going to use that P-Wing that he had left over in 7-9. And now he's going to damage boost beyond that first Goomba. And that'll allow him to make the most safe use of his time, so he doesn't have to bother with any wall clips. Yeah, even when you break the ice blocks and just go through the rest of the stage normally, a 272 time is really not bad at all, and it pretty much breaks even if you screw up a couple of those wall clip attempts along the way. Wall clips are the fastest way to get through the level, but there's really no guarantee that it'll actually happen depending on how merciful the sub picks decide to be to you. So, Haxor grabs a flower, and he's going to enter that pipe and grab a hammer suit, so he's going to want to carry that suit with him for the rest of the game. So we'll see how he's able to manage 7F2, which is pretty much the biggest challenge he's going to have with that item. So he does that duck jump there because that shell on his back acts as a shield for any of those nipper fireballs. So we'll see how he manages 7F2. One of the more aesthetically appealing levels to see executed properly as well. So he's going to be sniping out these piranha plants. He wants to have a clear path for himself. Really good, accurate shots. So he has his P speed, and he's going to enter the pipe at a 290. And he's going to want to take out the second dry bones and then just clear a path for him so that he can maintain his speed going into the end. Unfortunately, he lost his P speed getting a clip on that first wall, but he's still going to end with that boom boom kill on a decent time. So really good stuff from Haxor. Unfortunately, Dave got cornered by that one of those cheeps there, so he took some damage. Thankfully, it's not really going to be too much of an issue. He's still going to have enough P-Wings in his reserve to still get through the level, through the next few levels normally. I imagine he's going to go through some form of wall clip strat going into 7-9. Meanwhile, Haxor finishes up the last Piranha level, and he's making to the World 7 airship. It's the longest airship in the game, and it's going to be about 2 minutes total before he finishes up Ludwig. So he's going to be messing around with these nut and screw platforms, and he's going to want to steer clear of those rocky wrenches that are going to try to knock him out. So and it's also worth noting that since Haxor has the hammer suit, the hammers, the Koopalings are immune to the hammers, so he's going to have no choice but to do normal jump kills on Ludwig. Yeah, occasionally you see runners go for the hammer strats in both any percent warpless and 100% runs. It does save you a significant amount of time in World 8, especially since you have a nice clean path open for you, so you can get through level 8-2 a little bit faster, and you would have you'd be able to kill Bowser Koopa 5 seconds faster over the fireballs. Meanwhile, Dave is finishing up the first Piranha plant, so he'll have his P-Wings in reserve. So he's going to use it on the first fort since he doesn't have a tail otherwise. He's going to get through there no problem. He was able to land on both platforms and get that 194 pipe. Really good stuff. Alright, so Haxor's making his way up the steps, and he's going to do his jump kill wig. And very soon he's going to be making his way over to World 8, where we're going to be seeing even more auto-scrollers. So really good stuff from him. Meanwhile, Dave is making his way to level 7-6. So like the Haxor, he's going to use the P-Wing to fly over that wall. Looks like Dave opted for the damage boost with that P speed, and now he's gonna use that star. We'll see if he actually enters the pipe. Apparently he didn't, so he's going to maintain his P speed to the end of the level. And then, unfortunately, he takes a little bit of damage there along the way, but he'll still be able to pick up a star in 7F2. I do believe he still has to go through 7-9, so he'll be able to pick up a power up there. Thankfully, in 7-7, he also doesn't have to worry about having to duck slide under that pipe, so we can get that 2 cycle with the stars pretty easily. Meanwhile, TheHaxor is making his way over to the first tank auto-scroller in World 8. So, generally you could just stay in the front row and then just jump and then kill enemies wherever necessary, so there's really not too much to worry about. There's not too much going to be getting in your way. As I had mentioned before, he'll have an opportunity to reduce some of the lag frames that could potentially come up by just bunking some bob-ombs against each other in order to prevent some of the explosion animations. And it looks like Dave opted to go for the third cycle. It looks like his second throw was about to run out just momentarily, so that was definitely a good call on his part. So he makes his way through the first tank pretty easily, so we'll see if he tries to snipe out the boomerang bro or just go for a normal jump kill. The time difference would be negligible nonetheless. So he goes for that normal jump kill and gets a 166 for the item grab. Really good stuff. So he'll be making his way over to the Navy now. One of the more annoying auto-scrollers if you're doing 80% no wrong warp, just because you would, to make the most use of your time, you would have to go for that fire flower grab in that item box that he just passed by. And that would save you a good chunk of time by getting the fire kills on Boom Boom in both the Navy and the Air Force. So it's something you would definitely want to go for in any run, just because you wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise at any earlier part in the run. So there's really not much to do in the Navy, but just keep those rocky wrenches under wraps. So Dave is opting to get that star. It's definitely a very good move on his part. So, but it's also really tricky because sometimes when you that star grab is just right at the very tip of that platform, so it's very easy to just bounce the block and then just fall right in the ragu if you attack it too aggressively. But he's able to damage boost past that second room and get a normal jump kill on Boom Boom, so that's definitely a very good way to manage your time. Alright, so TheHaxor's making his way over to his the first hand. Doesn't have any trouble with those hammer bros, so really good stuff. He's able to get that P speed going into the pipe as well, so that saves him a couple frames. So it is RNG if you do get grabbed by the hand animation, but ideally you do want to avoid it, just because each hand animation costs you 1.5 seconds. So it's not going to cost you too much time just going through the levels anyway, because you have to play all 3 of them anyway in 100%. But they could definitely swing a race one way or another in any percent warpless. Yeah, it's worth noting that the first hand done optimally is 16 seconds, the second one is 15, and the third one is 19. So he's going to be making his way over to the Air Force now. I know that this is one of the scrollers when we were playing the game as kids, but it's one of those things that get a little easier as you're older. But nevertheless, you do want to be careful of how you execute your jumps in this level, just because you want to take out the rocky wrenches as soon as you can before they have a chance to throw any of their wrenches. And if there's too many of those wrenches on the screen, it makes those platform jumping a little bit harder to maneuver because it's so easy to just get backed into a corner and take damage. If you have the fire flower, it makes things a little bit trivial just because it fires in the direction that you're facing in a pretty straightforward path. But when you have the hammer, it shoots in an upward arch, so it would completely miss them if you're really close. Looks like Haxor got really close to getting bamboozled by that rocky wrench. He just barely missed it. So really good stuff. He was able to snipe out the boom boom. So he's going to be making his way over to 8-1. So we'll see how he decides to approach the 8-1 P speed strat here. If he's going to take a hammer with him, or just or if he's going to bring a star. Looks like he's going to take a star, so he'll be able to clear those piranha plants with ease, and that'll allow him to start building P speed without anything else in his way. So he gets underneath where that bullet bill cannon was to get that P speed, so he's going to carry it with him straight to the end. Ends with a 290, which is pretty much what you want in as a time for this level. So really good job with that. 8-2 is a really fun show-off level if you have the hammer suit, just because you have the opportunity to knock out the angry sun. So we'll definitely be seeing him doing that. Yep, he knocks out angry sun. Oh no! He misses the note block just right at the far right edge. So he was trying to bounce on that last note block from the underside, and then shoot a hammer at the same time, and that would allow him an easy snipe on that first piranha plant that was coming up. But it's very easy to miscalculate your jump as well, so that was unfortunate on his part. But at the very least, he'll be able to use one of the items in his inventory, whether it's a mushroom or a raccoon leaf. So he'll be able to pick up a fire grab that'll cost him maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but he'll still be able to get a nice fire kill on Bowser nonetheless. So it's not a terrible loss. It's a little inconvenient, so I'm sure he didn't want that to happen. So yeah, there is a P-speed strat that just involves running on those conveyor belts in that first room. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but it is definitely safer to avoid it altogether. And looks like Haxor's going for that first cycle doorway, and he's able to get it with that P-switch. And it's especially important when you're in a run, because if you fail to enter that doorway in time, you would have to do a second cycle with the P-switch, where those 2 blocks were. And it'll cost you about 14 seconds just so that those conveyor belts can start moving again to let you go to Boom Boom. Alright, so now that he has the Fire Flower, he can use Awaglib's strat with the really, really long name, which I'm not even going to attempt. So it basically just involves him staying in the front row, jumping wherever it is necessary, and then just spamming away his fireballs to take out the rocky wrenches. So the auto-scroller itself is about a minute 10. So at this rate, Bowser's Castle takes about 55 seconds to complete, including entering the doorway. So I project that he's going to be ending with a low 112, high 111. Yeah, definitely on the low 112 side. So I'm sure that however he personally feels about the run, it's still gonna end with a really good time overall. So now that he takes out that last rocky wrench, he's right at the pipe. So he's gonna take out Boom Boom right away, and then make his way over to Bowser's Castle. Meanwhile, Dave is finishing up the Navy ship, so he's making his way past the rocky wrenches. So he'll have an opportunity to pick up a Fire Flower if he wants to knock out the Boom Boom in the Air Force if he goes to pick it up in the third hand. So it looks like Haxor's taking the traditional path, just not going for the elevated clip. But he does get he is going for the People's Clip, which is pretty free, and it's also one of the highlighted tricks that you can use that's mentioned in the Nintendo Power Strategy Guide. So he's able to carry that P-speed past the statues, over the donut lifts, past the fireballs, which always spawn in the same spot. So now 35 shots away from Bowser, and he'll be in that doorway soon enough. Oh, unfortunately, he takes damage as he was delivering those few shots. So he's going to have to take the traditional route to kill Bowser, and then just allow Bowser just to break those bricks for the floor beneath him. So there is a 20-second difference between fire killing Bowser and then just doing this approach. You'll notice that Bowser jumped on him, and Haxor's not taking any more damage. That's because Bowser's hitbox is just on his head. So the lower half doesn't have a hitbox. So now that Bowser's down, he'll be entering that door very shortly. So because he had to take that extra time, he's going to be ending closer to 1:13. So he has an official time of 1:12:53. Get your GGs out for Haxor. Really good job. Alright, so now that Haxor's finished, we're just waiting on DaveLindo, who's making his way to the third hand. So we'll decide if we'll see if he decides to go for that fire flower grab or not. So looks like he's opting for it, and he's taking out the... Right, so now that Haxor's finished, we're just waiting on DaveLindo, who's making his way to the third hand. So we'll decide if we'll see if he decides to on for the next coming levels, especially for the Air Force and for those boom boom kills.
Yeah, it looks like he's on PB pace.
All right. So as mentioned before, he'll have his fire equipped, so that'll make the Air Force pretty trivial. So he'll be able to take out those rocky wrenches pretty easily. All right, so he gets that nice fire kill on Boom Boom. So now he's going to be making his level -1. So we'll see if he goes for that P-Speed strat that we saw Haxor pull off earlier. And we'll see if he's going to use the same strat of just grabbing a star and then just having a path open for him, which it looks like he is. So he'll be able to get rid of those piranha plants pretty easily. So he'll have just enough time in order to have that P-Speed open for him. So he ducks underneath where those bullet bills are. Unfortunately, yeah, he lost a little bit of momentum there and took some damage, but he'll still be able to get past the level in a pretty reasonable amount of time, and he'll still have another opportunity to pick up a fire flower in the World 8 fort. So it's a minor inconvenience, but not the end of the world. Meanwhile, he'll make his way to 8-2, and he'll be doing his best to avoid wherever the angry sun might spawn. Makes his way over to the note blocks pretty easily. He does a little bit of a damage boost, make his way past those piranha plants, and he's able to take that leap of faith that puts him right over the note block. And he ends. He has a really good improvised plan B. So really good job as far as that. That's really impressive. So he'll have an opportunity to use one of his leaves and then pick up the fire flower at the beginning of 8F. Taking a little bit carefully just to steer clear of those roto discs. Doesn't look like he's going to go for the P-Speed strat either, but there's no harm in taking it a little bit safer in a race. So we're going to see if he's going to get that that one cycle with the P-switch, which he does. Very good stuff.
He's going to smash his PB. Oh no. Did I just jinx it?
Commentator's curse.
Did he grab the hammer suit? I think he usually does. So
no, he bypassed the hammer room. So well, I didn't see him go for the Toad House, although my attention could have been diverted elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll be curious to see if he has it. Either way, he's gonna smash his PB unless he dies like half a dozen times.
Yeah, I just don't foresee Dave doing that though. I think he should still be on pace for a good time. I don't have his PB
Yeah.
right. Would you know offhand?
Yeah, it was a 121 last I checked, unless he has a new one since then.
All right, so I think that in between the last time I saw him play, and he's a good opportunity to build some muscle memory with some of the levels that he needed to work on. So I know that he's a really solid warpless player in general, so I have no surprise that he's going to be making some significant improvements here pretty quickly.
Yeah, he's like at a 55 flat and warpless, so honestly, he should be able to get like a 115 in this category with a little work, and probably sub 115 he can get to.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I like that he's taking this very careful, as small, like he's patient and letting things just kind of happen.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so unfortunately he doesn't have a hammer suit in inventory, so he's going to use the next best option, which is to damage boost to get rid of that tail, and then make his way over to Bowser's Castle as normal Big Mario. So we'll see if he decides to use the same piece speed strat that Haxor used in that last statue room. So he gets the People's Clip on his second try. Making his way over to the donut lifts, he's taking a little bit carefully. He's able to get that P speed, but unfortunately he wasn't able to carry it with him. So he'll go through those donuts a little bit slowly, but as long as he doesn't take any deaths, he'll still be in good shape, which he definitely is.
Yeah, he should be good here. He's done this before, so I mean, a race with no fast kill on Bowser, who would have thought?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be like, yay, I've got free world 8 time save now. Oh, he's just gonna miss the sub 120. That's unfortunate.
I see. All right, so he should be entering the door in 10 seconds. So get your GGs out for both TheHaxor and DaveLindo. And he'll be entering with an official time of 1:20:01. Get your GGs out, everyone. Really good stuff. So now that both racers have completed their runs, it's worth noting that DaveLindo mentioned in advance that he wouldn't be able to do any interviews with us, unfortunately, but that's certainly his prerogative. Meanwhile, I'm joined by TheHaxor, who's with me right now. So did you have any comments as far as this run goes?
Honestly, I don't know if you noticed, but in the first tank, I just decided to forgo D-lag strats because I wanted to get the most possible lag frames in a run that's ever been completed in Mario 3 history.
Yeah, I was making comments about that you do have some lag reduction strats in tank 1, but I figured if you don't want to put yourself in the line of fire if you're already on a good pace and don't want to worry about ruining your hammer suit.
Yeah, it was just like I had more lag frames in 6.8 than I've ever seen in my life, and I couldn't get P speed at first, and then I got it back, and then I hit the stupid 1-up, and so I got more lag frames. And then what was it? I got a bunch of lag frames in 7.4 because I got like a demon spawn of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point it was just like, I'm gonna do this for the meme. I did get no hands, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't get the first two. I didn't. I must have missed you just getting that third one, just being able to manually get through it with no problem.
Yeah. I mean, until I took that death in 6.8, I was probably even with PB pace and potentially ahead. So I was pretty much just going for everything at that point.
Right.
And then yeah, that happened. Then I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna stomp Lemmy.
Yeah, I was a little surprised you didn't go for the fire kill on Lemmy. You usually
yeah, that was why. It's, I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth risking. If I end up small Mario, it's just a disaster there. There's like no good way to deal with that. So I was just like, I'll just take it safe. Like if I'm on PB pace, I'll go for everything. I don't care. Like I'll throw it away. I'll like go, you know, if I soft lock going for a PB in a race and I lose, I'll be mad, but I'll be like, well, I mean, at least I tried.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and if you're really playing it safe, it's really not worth you know, just taking damage from your fire flower going into 7-2 just to save 2 seconds.
Yeah, yeah, I'm more worried about taking double damage in the Lemmy fight, just because it gets a little janky once you take that first bit of damage and he starts to go across the screen, because then you got all the bouncy balls everywhere.
Yeah, and he's always in a really inconvenient spot where he's just protected by like 3 or 4 balls. It's like, get back here.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just more for just safety more than anything. Yeah, the A2 death was weird. I thought I did it right. Although there was one thing I noticed, the first block I jumped on, I did jump far to the right, so I was a little worried when that happened, and then of course it ended up causing a death. I thought I was slow enough over the section to hit the next block, but I whiffed it. So Bowser, I got the fastest jump pattern, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, about that 8-2, I've definitely had my share of making that same mistake when I was on PB pace runs, so you definitely wouldn't be the first as far as that goes. It's not the hardest thing to mess up either, because you're really dancing around a really small note block in order to proceed with the next few steps for that strat.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird though. I don't think I've made that mistake in almost a year, so it's kind of strange that it just popped up all of a sudden. I'm just glad I didn't do it in a PB attempt or something.
but hey, that's SMB3 speed running in a nutshell. You practice something a bajillion times, just normally, and then once you're actually under the gun, just anything can happen.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my inputs in 8-1 were weird too. Like one of my inputs is wrong. Like it's just off. And it was weird because I did practice before the run and the inputs were good. Like it felt normal, but I definitely, there's a reason I lost P speed for a split second there, and I was afraid I was going to get frame ruled again like I did in the last race, but I was able to get it back, so that was nice.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's very easy to just drop inputs depending on what kind of situation you're in. Like, I notice pretty commonly when I'm in hand one, when you stomp that first fire bro, and then you're making your landing to start sniping those other 2 hammer bros on that platform. Sometimes there's just a bit of a delay with that B press, and sometimes even in hand 2, it's very easy to just miss A presses and then just fall right in the ragu.
Yeah, I pretty much, I've had that happen. I've never had it happen in a run, but I've had it happen in practice. So like when I jump on the spinners and the World 7 airship, and when I do those platform jumps in hand 2, I'm just looking at Mario's feet, so I know exactly when he lands.
Yeah, I was highlighting how jank those spinners were as the race was going on when you guys were getting to level 5-4. And yeah, spinners are just pretty notorious for just drop A presses.
Oh, that reminds me, that spinner in 3-6, I don't understand. Like, that shouldn't have hit me, and it did, and that scared the crap out of me. I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, I always make sure I do a full leap just to be sure I'm making it into that pipe.
Right? That's what I did. I don't know, like, that was weird. I'll have to watch it back. I might have just jumped earlier or something, or just not did a full jump, but yeah, it was... I normally like do a few practice attempts of that just because, I mean, there's no good way to go about that stupid spinner at the end of that level, honestly.
I think I've seen Zakubi just attack it from the side just by building a little bit of P speed on that lower platform and then just making his way past, I think, that flying Koopa.
Oh yeah. I've seen stuff like that too. Yeah.
I don't know if it's really worthwhile just to save a couple frames, but I don't know. I think I feel a little bit more comfortable taking the spinner approach.
Yeah, it saves half a second, honestly. I have a good visual cue for it. It's just I don't want to for the under route. I just don't want to mess up, and I feel like I'm less likely to mess up the upper route. But I mean, that was about as close as you can get.
It's one of those things where even if you do it a million times, it'll be really scary. Kind of like with scroller in 5.6. Like it's not a difficult scroller, but you do have those really small paratroopers to navigate around, so you still want to be as careful as you can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know. World 5, the auto scrollers, both of them actually scare me a little bit. Even 5.9 on those wood platforms, there's a couple jumps where the wood platforms are like flush with each other, and you've got to do like a loop-de around it. Those jumps scare me.
Yeah, I at least have good visual cues for when those fire snakes are going to spawn. So I know it's going to be the first one, that first horizontal pipe, and then the one where you have that first view of the clear blue sky.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them. The one it always just runs into you if you stand on the left side, then move to the right, and then the first one you can just fire kill it as soon as it goes on screen. If you don't have fire, you just wait for it to shoot, then go left and you just jump off of it. Pretty good. You definitely want to learn how to deal with the fire snakes in this category. I think they're one of the more annoying things actually in the category.
Yeah, exactly. And I could keep talking to you about little nuanced things that could happen in an SMB3 run, but in the interest of wrapping things up, is there anything else that you wanted to cover, or do you have any expectations as the bracket continues to move forward?
Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty happy overall with that run. I felt like I should have had a mid 111. There's just a couple things that unfortunate. I mean, actually halfway through World 6, I felt like, hey, this could 110, but I haven't played for a couple days because I've been traveling, so I'm pretty happy with how that went overall. Just a few things that really are uncharacteristic that we'll clean up and going forward. So if I keep playing like that overall and just eliminate a couple of those mistakes, I think we have a pretty good chance of beating anybody. So
yeah, I think you got I think that getting a sub 113 even with a death factored in is still really, really impressive. So it looks like you got a lot of the crucial strats down nonetheless. So really good job for both of you.
Two deaths and not a fast kill on Bowser. Still got a 112. So yeah, that's pretty good.
It looked like when you were coming out of that low, like I thought you were still on pace for a low 112, but unfortunately,
I was actually I was on pace for a 111, like 40 something at that point.
I see. So really good race from both you and DaveLindo. So in closing, I just want to give a huge thank you to GSA for hosting this event, and to Aurora for doing the restream tonight. So we will not. That'll be concluding all the races for tonight. Tomorrow, GSA will be starting back up live again at 5:30 with their Super Mario Sunshine race with Average Trey and SSB Reed. So you won't want to miss that. So we'll definitely keep you posted. You can definitely refer back to the calendar for the next SMB3 races that are going to be coming up. So with that, I just want to say thank you for putting on a great show for us, and have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for doing the commentary, Teeks, and shout out to GSA again. Appreciate you guys putting this on. Have a good one.
Have a good one. GG's, everyone. Take care.